Well, we've got less than 12 months to another election. And look, we're seeing some real hardships in our society. Workers are really struggling. Inflation's going up. The banks are making big profit. Everything's really looking doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Hey, Bourne, good to see you, man. You can cheer us up. I'm sure you can.
Oh, well, Max, those last few words you said, the banks are making big profits. This week's whipping boy, those nasty banks and their obscene profits, just scum. All right. Now, seriously, Max, politicians looking down their noses at humongous bank profits is akin to a bunch of puppy dogs barking up a tree with nothing in it. And I've got two reasons to validate my view. Okay. Now, sure, banks do make big profits, but here is where our government requiring any bank to do business or conduct business in New Zealand, they require them to have enough reserves to cover a black swan moment, such as 2008's GFC or the pandemic of 2020, which we're still trying to wriggle out of now. So in that respect, the government looks after us. And so what that means, Max, is New Zealand banks, to keep our government happy, are totally obsessed with governance and compliance. New Zealand banks, in terms of looking after our money, are among the safest on the planet. I mean, seriously, Max, they're right up there with all the gold sitting in caves in the Swiss Alps. But the underlying key fact here to all of that, Max, is because of the necessary resources required to do business in New Zealand, it means the shareholders need to receive a superior return from those banks. So, Max, we can't have our cake and eat it too. We can't expect banks to jump through hoops to do business in New Zealand only to get tiny profits. That is unrealistic. Does that make sense, Max?
Well, one thing it does make sense to me is that this government the word profit means that exploitation to this government, which you and I know is not correct. It's
Yeah.
people making a living. And look, to put in perspective, you're right. I mean, they're huge, those banks, absolutely massive. And with that, the proportion of profit needs to come up higher. I do agree. But the other thing is there is a lot of hardship hitting the Kiwis. And look, I don't think that that should be a ruling, but everyone has to go through hardship, but certainly some of them do.
Yeah, yeah. And hey, Max, in terms of that hardship hitting the Kiwis and the cost of living crisis we hear bandied around, that is a real thing. But I believe that the bank profit topic is a bit of a rabbit hole to go down. And my second reason on that is why I say what I say is, I'm not too concerned with big bank profits. And so number two is our Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, totally outsmarted leader of the opposition, Chris Luxon, this week. She did that by drawing attention to those big, bad, nasty bank profits. And what she did was very shrewdly made comment, and she baited Chris Luxon into also making comments. And Chris had to take the bank because, he's run an airline, And so just like Henry Harpooker, Chris took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. And so he also made comments. So what we saw this week was the leaders of both major parties jibber-jabbering on about bank profits when Chris Luxon's real job as leader of the opposition is to call the government to account on the big issues of the day. Bank profits should not even be in the top 100 things the leader of the opposition focuses on. Max, Jacinda threw a big dummy pass. Chris totally bought it. What do you think about that?
I totally agree. Actually, I think look, there's so much this opposition could focus on that what this government are doing. Obscene profits, but obscene amounts of tax. They're actually just shoveling it into their coppers and then flicking it off to Pacific nations and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Just giving money away. And look, what in the meantime, as citizens here in New Zealand are struggling now. I think the opposition should have picked up on that rather than following Jacinta's lead again. And yeah, I think you're right, Vaughan. They've been outmaneuvered again. National have.